Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. So let's imagine a scenario. Say, for the sake of argument, that you were hypothetically lost on a deserted island somewhere in southern Tennessee, North Mississippi. I don't know, it doesn't matter. And the only thing you had with you on this deserted island was 3 rolls of duct tape, some paracord, 10-foot lengths of PVC pipe, and say 15 rolls of plastic cling wrap. Could you build a boat to escape the island? This is stupid. Should I do another intro? Probably. So hear me out, okay? I've seen people make some pretty cool kayaks out of like PVC pipe and tarps or something. But something I've never seen is them being made out of cling wrap. So here's the master plan. We're gonna build the frame out of the PVC, obviously. We're gonna attach the frame together using the duct tape, obviously. Then we're going to wrap the frame around and around and around and around with all that plastic cling wrap. That hopefully I have enough of to be tough enough and get a watertight seal on. I'm gonna reinforce that with the duct tape. So, let's get to it before I fall over. It is really beautiful up here. Like, legitimately. This lake is awesome. This is so absurd. Starting with the frame, that's going to look something like this. That's terrible. Okay, you get the idea. There's one. They're gonna be tied at the top, tied at the bottom. We're gonna do 2 more. Something like this, tied at the top, tied at the bottom. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pipes going all the way across. Then we're gonna put in the cross braces, like so. And I'm gonna assume we're gonna have 4 of them, not spaced like this. Then duct taped at the intersections. I think you get the very, very basic idea. So let's go ahead and start. Marking it at 6'6" and at 3'6". That'll be our opening, and then about midway between those, and then the same on the other side. That'll be where we put the supports. Then you cut that PVC with your handy dandy PVC pipe cutter thingamajiggy, which is really awesome. The formula for perfectly attaching one piece of PVC to another is to take a longish strip, that's the measurement, longish, wrap it around like so, repeat, then take a piece like this and wrap around the other way, strapping those down tight. Now that I got the top frame done, it's gonna be easier if I tie it up to these 2 trees here, and I can work on it up here instead of down there. You know the reason canoes flip but kayaks generally don't? Canoes are very thin at the bottom and thinner overall, and kayaks are very wide at the bottom and wider overall. Jake's brain farted that was entirely incorrect. Typical Jake. Your standard kayak is actually about the same width as your standard canoe. Canoes are usually easier to tip over than most normal-sized kayaks, fishing kayaks, the kayaks most people use, because you sit up higher in a canoe, causing your center of gravity to be higher, meaning if you lean over a little bit in a kayak, it's not going to tip the boat over as much, but if you lean over the same amount in a canoe, because your center of gravity is higher, it wants to tip you over more. Also, the shape of the hull has a large part to play in this, but we'll talk more about that later on in the video. It's not rocket science. It's boat engineering. I'm gonna make the bottom pretty wide. I'm trying to decide just how wide. Give me a second. Yeah, we'll do 18 inches. That seems pretty large on the bottom. Y'all should get you some of these. Oh, this is gonna be great. This is getting complicated now. First each one. I need to bust out my second roll of tape. I'll go ahead and time lapse it. I've got the frame finished now. It's roughly 15 inches deep. I'm worried that the seat area, I'm gonna end up like shoving my butt through or something. So we'll just stick these two supports right in there to cushy my behiney. There we go. Should be finished with the frame. We're on to the fun part. Numero uno. This is gonna be interesting. How do I even get it open? How are you supposed to get this open? It's kind of absurd. Oh, it's got a tab that says remove tab to open. It'd be helpful if I could read. I have 4,500 square feet of plastic cling wrap. All right, starting on this end, we'll just start wrapping it. Gonna be more difficult than anticipated. Now what's hard about this first layer is the cling wrap, of course, only sticks to itself. As you know, if you've ever tried to cover some food with cling wrap, it never sticks to the bowl you put your salad in. It only sticks to itself. So same thing with the PVC. It won't stick to the PVC. So the first layer was annoying. We interrupt this program to bring you JakeMakes merchandise! I spent way too many hours designing all of these things, so please go buy something, because I need money. Also, check out my Instagram, behind the scenes, project updates, all kinds of cool stuff. As well as ring the bell behind me to make sure all your notifications are turned on for this YouTube channel. Anyway, that's about all. You can go back to your regularly scheduled broadcast. That was ridiculous. Now let's do it about 1 million more times. Now, the issue with plastic cling wrap, of course, is that it is super, super thin. The idea behind this whole thing that I'm betting on is that if you get enough of something, it will become strong. This is roll 3, and already we've got some strength showing up here, but it is taking longer than I expected, so that's a bummer for me. For science, right? The sun is now considerably lower. I have used 6.5 rolls of plastic, and I think we're about done. I'm gonna go ahead and cut. Don't want it to just spring all off. That would be awful. Don't think it will. I just want to kind of make sure it won't. I really hope this doesn't undo everything I just spent hours doing. So far, so good. This will work. Man, I've got a pretty thick amount of this stuff. That's great. So the fear is with this plastic stuff that the water will start getting into it, and then it will just like find its way under and start unraveling the entire thing. To combat that, I am taking duct tape and wrapping it in several joints, basically dividing it into 3 sections so that if it starts unraveling, it will only get so far and then it will go no farther. Theoretically, we should have enough wraps that simply won't be a problem anyway. Theoretically, of course. I think it's gonna work. I feel fairly confident. Sort of. Lift that boat, lift that boat. This, he's willing to go all the way under the water where, well, that is definitely
Definitely not me.
We won't scrape it on the rocks.
We'll find Jack.
This is really rocky down here.
I've got shoes on.
Carefully lower it.
Alrighty.
Carefully lower it down. Lower your end then, slowly.
So everything can go wrong right here. If
Everything will go wrong, right?
the pressure is definitely building in Jake's head as we have 4 cameras filming.
Hey,
Can you not commentate like that? I'm predicting this will work for about 5 minutes, and then it will start filling with water.
Oh, this seems so bad.
I'm so flipping this.
You would have got more views if you fell in.
How's he planning to get out of there? Yeah, stay out.
Oh, a river battle.
Oh, I just wanted to sing right now.
Oh yes, we're all hoping for a miracle here. Does anyone have a blowgun?
As you can see, we have no water inside, and I've been out here for probably, I don't know, 5 minutes now. Look at this. Oh yeah. Oh no, the sun just went down. It was there a second ago. Remember what I said about this thing being square and kind of unstable? It is. I was confused at why this kayak wasn't very stable. See, intuitively, I know that the squarer the sides of this kayak are, the less stable it will be. I know this intuitively to be true, however, I cannot explain why this is so, and I don't understand why this is so. Funny how that works, huh? Like how we all intuitively understand how boats float, but we don't actually know why they float. I'm sorry to sidetrack this video, but there's some really fascinating physics behind this that I have to share with you. We say, oh, boats float because the boat is lighter than the water, right? I mean, duh. Well, sort of. This is a little ball of clay. This is a bowl of water. I'm gonna drop this little ball of clay into this bowl of water. Let's see what happens. Oh wow, big surprise, it sank! As it is now, this material sinks to the bottom. However, if I take this and squash it down and form it into the shape of a little bitty boat, and then we drop it in the water, we see that it floats. The ball and the boat both weigh the exact same amount, they're the exact same material. One of them sinks, one of them floats. See, it's not that the boat is lighter than the water, it's that the boat is lighter than the amount of water that it displaces. As a ball, this clay does not displace hardly any water. But in the boat shape, it displaces much more water, and the boat actually weighs less than the amount of water it is displacing, thus making it float. For simplicity's sake, we term this effect the buoyancy force. Dadgummit, my blue marker won't work. Water is red today, okay? Gravity is pulling the boat down into the water, but the buoyancy force is the water pushing back up against the boat. Now, if the buoyancy force is more than the gravity pulling the boat down, the boat floats. Basically, the boat is less dense than the water. Like a helium balloon is less dense than the air around it, so it floats up and away. Congratulations, you just learned why a boat floats, but have you ever wondered, why does a boat not tip over? Especially like cruise ships. Like, they're so tall out of the water, why don't they tip over? I'll tell you. What keeps a boat from tipping over is a balance between the boat's center of gravity and the boat's center of buoyancy, as determined by the shape of the boat's hull. Here's a basic example. This is our boat, this is our red water, this is the boat's center of gravity, and this is the boat's center of buoyancy force, or center of buoyancy. The boat's center of buoyancy is going to be in the center of the amount of water being displaced by the hull of the boat. Those two forces should be directly in line with each other, and the boat will stay straight up and down. It's not going to be tipping sideways. However, say the boat begins to tip. As the water line changes, the boat's center of buoyancy moves over to match where the water displacement is happening. Now the center of gravity and the center of buoyancy, the two forces, one pushing down, one pushing up, are displaced. They're not directly pushing against each other. This creates a twisting motion that will right the boat again. But the shape of the boat's hull determines how much of a twisting force is created. Let's compare a common canoe hull to a common fishing kayak's hull. When it starts to tip over, this canoe with the rounder hull barely shifts over that center of buoyancy, causing very little of that twisty force. While on this kayak design, you can see, due to the weird shape it's got, the center of buoyancy moves much farther over, causing a lot more twisty force. It really wants to ride itself back to an even keel. Anyway, if we compare the fishing kayak to my kayak design, which incidentally looks a lot more like a canoe's design, but I'm not changing the title, so. Looking at the distance between these two center points, we see that the fishing kayak is a much more stable design. In fact, if my drawings are anywhere near accurate, which they probably aren't, the fishing kayak should have double the amount of twisty force as my stupid design, which will make it feel more stable. Not that the kayak I made wasn't that stable, it actually was fairly stable, but I was expecting it to be like the fishing kayak, so I was surprised when it didn't feel exactly like that in the water. And that triggered this long talk about why boats don't tip over and sink. Even though obviously making a saran wrap boat is kind of stupid, the frame of this boat with the PVC and duct tape, you could just wrap a tarp around, you could wrap other thicker normal plastic material around and duct tape. If you're out in the wilderness or something, you could use bamboo and put a tarp around. The basic skills, in other words, that I use today are actually useful. Tool recommendation for today is, as expected, the only tool I use. These PVC pipe cutters. These things are actually really, really awesome. They make very short work of PVC pipe. Can go up to like 1 inch diameter. My goodness, they're just a joy to use. I need to keep them accessible in the shop somewhere so I don't always end up using the saw. It would make my life a lot easier. And I'm sure in the description right now, if you went down there would be a link to where you could buy some of these. Probably on Amazon, where I have affiliate links. I mean, this is peak YouTube, isn't it? Learning things that you didn't need to know, that cling wrap can make a boat. You've no idea how cold this water is. Until next time, Jake out.